Welcome to a very special episode of Cool Dude Clem's Electronic Workshop. Welcome to Cool Dude Clem's Electronic Workshop with me, your host, Cool Dude Clem. If you think you're seeing double here, and don't worry, you haven't had enough to drink, well, not yet anyway, there are two tape recorders here. This one on the left is my Akai 4000DS Mark II, which you may have seen in a lot of my videos. It's made quite a few appearances. And over here we have an Akai 4000DS Mark I. Neither of these machines work properly. The Mark II has worn out heads and one of the meters is no longer working, whereas the Mark I has a problem with its amplifier board. So what I think I'm going to do is part out both the machines and use the parts to build a perfectly working reel-to-reel tape recorder. So now let's take a look inside the Mark I and see what we can find. Okay, this is inside the Mark I, and I can see there's quite a few differences between it and the Mark II. The input and output panel is here, whereas on the Mark II it's here somewhere. And over here we have the bias and power circuit. And over here we have the main circuit board. On the Mark II, everything is located along the bottom here somewhere. Now, let's take a look at that main circuit board and see what we can find. Right, well, this is the main circuit board that does playback and recording. And already I can see there are a few things wrong here. Looks like some thieving bug has taken something out here. I'm not quite sure what goes in there yet, but I can see a few other things. This potentiometer looks pretty bashed about, and over here you can see there's some wires that have been taken off. So let's see how the other side of the circuit board looks. Right, well, this is the other side of the circuit board, and I can see what's missing now. There should be an integrated circuit in this little bit here, and as you can see, it's gone. And there's no way I'm going to be able to get a replacement for that because, well, this was made probably around 1972, so being that old, I don't think there's going to be any way I'm going to get a replacement for that. But now, let's go over to the green screen for my thoughts. Okay, that's just about it for the analysis of the thing. Mechanically, it's pretty good. I haven't found anything that's seized up or rusty or bent or broken or missing as far as I can see. But electronically, it's not the same story. The transformer and the motor and the heads seem to be perfectly okay, but it's that main circuit board that's the problem. So, I think the best thing to do will be take the electronics out of my Mark II and put them in the Mark I. The main circuit board should fit. Now just got to connect it up and see if it works. Well, okay, we're just about ready for the circuit transplant now. Or transplant, depending on how you want to say it. I try not to be too British when I speak. I prefer to say instead of I don't know why. Now, I've done a close-up inspection of the main board in both the tape recorders, checking where all the wires go and everything. And I've discovered that both the circuit boards are laid out in exactly the same way. They both have exactly the same connections, and those connections are laid out in exactly the same way. So it's not going to be too difficult to do the transplant. On the Mark I circuit board you can see that the connections are labelled. But unfortunately on the Mark II circuit board they're not labelled. So what I've done is labelled all those connections. So now when I connect it up I'm not going to make any mistakes and end up blowing up the tape recorder or something. Because I don't want to ruin two potentially good tape recorders. Now let's see if we can get a split screen view of how the connections are laid out. There it is. Here's another thing I just noticed. We're looking at the motor run capacitor in the Mark 1, and you can see it has a date on it, and it says 1972. So now we know when this was made. Well, here's the amplifier board from the Mark II taken out. I've also taken out the switches for the tape selector and equalizer. You can see here there's a network of capacitors, and on the Mark I, those capacitors are not there. The switch is just connected directly to the wire. So I'm imagining those capacitors are on the main board somewhere. And because I'm going to be using the circuit board from the Mark II, I'm going to need this switching circuit as well. Well, what do you know, I was just about to take the switches out of the Mark I, and I discovered that there is a capacitor network here. I just didn't see it. So, guess I won't be needing this. Right, well, the transplant is complete. You can see the Mark II circuit is now in the Mark I. I'll just do a few tests, then connect up the power connection, and then we'll see if it works. Which it probably won't, but anyway, I'm used to that happening now.